Continuing on with branding, we started off with a coffee company. We're going to make a little bag out of that next week. We went on to a national park logo. We're going to create a little band upon which we can sort of loop together, say, for instance, a guidebook or something like that. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do a subscription box. Subscription boxes are the new hotness, right? They've been around for, gosh, I don't know, maybe like 6-7 years or so. They really got popular in the past few years because essentially, people like getting stuff to send to them in the mail, right? And that's just a thing people enjoy. So we're going to kind of explore some of the tools that Gravit Design has to help make something that's not a circle, it's not an ellipse, and we want it to be sort of curved, but we also want it to follow along with this pattern here. So let's start off by kind of creating our little shape here and creating our text. So I'm just going to push this off to the side. And I'm not going to make it exactly the same way, but I'm going to kind of create a sort of similar kind of idea here. And so once again, in this case, we're going to be doing something similar to each other, but not necessarily like the exact same thing here. So I'm going to start off with my ellipse here. I'll start off with it being like maybe 600 pixels wide by about 400 pixels tall. Let me zoom in real good. All right, so that's good. Okay, so I got a lot of stuff kind of going on here right now, so this might slow down for me, but hopefully it'll be pretty quick for you. Now for this right here, what I want to do is I want to have the sides be sort of cut at an angle, and I want to have the bottom be cut flat. So I'm going to create a series of squares here, so we get my rectangle, and I'll just create a series of squares, and I want them to be pretty tall in comparison. I might just sort of alt drag this. All right, cool. All right, so you can Control D to duplicate what you just did. You can Control D to duplicate different objects and stuff. I'm going to color them all red, just so they're different. I might color this one blue, just so it's different. And I might reduce the opacity of these slightly. Say, for instance, 70%. Okay, just so that I can see what's going on. Okay, so with this thing blue, I'm just going to make sure that these two right here, the center, are centered. And I'll just drag this straight down until I get to where I want it to be here. So around there. And then from here, just double check this is centered. This is centered. Okay, good. And from here, I'm going to maybe alter this. I'm going to rotate this. Say, for instance, I can go over here to rotation, I'll say 10 degrees. And over here, I'll rotate this. Say, for instance, negative 10 degrees. All right, so they're kind of like facing the same way. And I'll just double check that they're both lined up. And then I can just drag them down here, and I can kind of determine how far apart I want them to be. So if I want it to be like this big, a bit wider than I had before, that's fine. If I want this one to be scooted a little bit more, that's fine too. What I can do then is I can just grab the two of them, go over here to Modify and Group, and then with that done, I can just sort of grab onto all of these shapes here and just make sure they're all centered here. Right? So now that they're all centered, I can just select everything. I like this. This is fine. I've got 3 sides down here and one round at the top. I'll just go over here to my shape builder and I'll just subtract. Okay, so with that being that done, essentially what we've got now is just a this odd shape. But notice that we've got these paths are still here, right? So this is essentially not a shape itself. This is a compound shape. So if I were to go down here, I could actually adjust these different rectangles here, and I could actually continue on like adjusting this if I felt so inclined. So say for instance, you want this to be, say for instance, a smidgen wider, you could do that as well. If you wanted this to be like this to be a little higher here, you could do that as well. Like for instance, I can see this little tag down here, so I don't want these little tags hanging out. So I'm going to go over here to this rectangle. I'm just going to pull this tag down so you don't have to see that tag anymore. So that's good there. So as soon as you're satisfied with your shape, you can click on it and you go over here to Modify and go over here to Path and just say Convert to Path. That way it becomes its own path instead of a compound shape. If we don't do that, then it's going to be hard for us to put our text on top of it. All right, so we have one advantage here with this text. We don't actually have to put the text, we don't have to create multiple shapes to create the text. So we're going to go over here to this, our text tool, just click on the top anywhere and start typing. I think I typed it inside. Okay, let's get closer here. I might color this a bit lighter, say for instance a light blue. So now when I click on it, hopefully it will. All right, so let's click on reverse. Let me go up here. Outside, reverse. Here we go. Okay, cool. All right, so you know, get it to where it's on the top here, and you want it to line up with the side as best you can here. So be careful with this. If you get too close to the edge, it'll sort of like dip down, and it'll sort of change the way that you're moving it. This is very sensitive to like sort of how close you are, like on the sort of vertical space that this takes up. So just be kind of aware of how these things move. These things move differently than they move in the Illustrator here. So as soon as you have your text position, go ahead and type out the name of the box. Let's go ahead and just, how about this? What we'll do is this. Find a photo of yourself. And the reason why I'm saying that, like, find a photo of yourself or take a photo of yourself doing something that has to do with your subscription box. So subscription boxes can be about anything. They could be about activities you do. They could be about TV shows you're into. So say, for instance, you want to do like a Harry Potter subscription box. That's a great one. I like the Harry Potter films. Those are fun. Fantastic Beasts was weird, but whatever. Anyways, maybe you get like yourself like a stick that you find in your backyard, and you like have your brother or your mom or whoever take a picture of yourself like waving that stick around as if it were a magic wand, and then you can just sort of from there do a little trace out of that for the inside. Now, so if you go over here to look at this, so for instance, I want mine to be paddle box, right? So just like maybe I send you stuff for, you know, your kayaking or whatever, because I could keep, you know, harping on there. I like, you know, so I'm going to put like maybe something sort of light here. I'm going to make this different. It's not going to be all caps. So again, this is all kind of up to you how you shoot this, but whatever you want to do, you want it to be like, you know, obviously, what's the word I'm looking for? You want it to be intentional, whatever you do with it. So I want to make this a bit bigger. Can I make this bigger? Sure. Okay. Oh, make it bigger. That's good. All right, and then from there, so for instance, if I were to like show you over here, just pull this over this way. So this little image of me, this is actually an image of me. This is this photo right here. This is for me kayaking with Tacoma with a friend of mine. So that's an actual photo of myself. So find a photo of yourself doing something or participating in something that you like, and trace out yourself doing it. Make sure that there's enough you know, space here. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and just sort of submit that photo as well, because otherwise, you know, I want to make sure that we're not just taking like vectors that we find online. So submit the photo that you take of yourself or that you find of yourself. Obviously, you know, find a photo that you're willing to share with your teacher, and then submit that to D2L as well. All right, so let's go ahead and just go modify path and convert to path, and then what we'll do here is we'll get our next text, and I'm going to make this sort of a sans serif font here instead of a script font. So I'm going to say, so down below we'll you know, a subscription box for paddlers, right? And so in this case, I'm going to make this a bit more readable by changing it to, say, for instance, Anton. I think was a good font. Real clean, tall font. There we go. And I'll make this attached to the bottom here. So, and I'll go ahead and just modify and convert this to a path as soon as I'm ready, just so I can make it bigger here without having to deal with all the font size and stuff. All right, that's fine. Okay, so let's do some thinking here. We want to have a couple of things. We want to have an internal shape upon which we place our design, our little logo cutout here, and then we're also going to want this little space here. We're going to want our inner and outer ring here. So let's kind of think about this for a second here. Let's oops. All right. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to duplicate this a couple of times, or maybe just yeah, I'll duplicate it twice. So I'm going to edit, duplicate, or I'll just control D on the keyboard. I'll change this to, like, say, for instance, red. Then I'll go to edit, duplicate, and I'll change this to, say, for instance, green. And so, for instance, here, what I'll do, I don't want to shrink this down, because once again, if I start to shrink this down, we're going to start to see differences. Actually, you know, we really don't see differences so much there. This actually turns out pretty good. So this is actually doing no, this is actually kind of nice. All right, so I'll just shrink this down with Control and with Shift and Alt, just kind of give itself some space here, and then I'll just grab this red one here and I'll pull it down a little less. It's just so there's a little space in between these two, and then I'll grab this one here and I'll just pull this one out. In this case, what we'll do is we'll pull this one out a good deal to where there's some space on the top of the bottom, and then we'll double click on it and we'll just grab these two vertexes here and sort of drag these up, holding down shift while dragging them up here. All right, looks good. And then if you want, what you can do is you can go over here to your roundness. I want to say your corner, just go round off the corners a little bit here to the top and the bottom as well. Just pull the roundness up to, say, for instance, 12. And if you'd like, you can do the same thing for the middle, but I think I'll just keep that the way it is here. And okay, here we go. So what we'll do is we'll just take the red here and the blue, and we'll just go to subtract. Hello, no. We'll go to subtract. And that gives us this little space in the middle. Okay, so now we've got our little space here. So for instance, if I want to make this a little bit thinner, I'll just select these two in the middle here and just get my pointer tool here and just Alt. Drag this in some. Looks good. Okay, cool. All right, it's a little bit cleaner here. All right, so that being said, now it's up to you to do what you want to do. All right, so for instance, over here, I found this. I copied this in. I just made this, and then I sized up the whole thing just so it would look better. So once again, now here's the thing. So when you make these things, when you export this as a JPEG, you want to make sure that everything else besides what it is that you've got exported is gone, right? So I've had a few people turn in things that have like whatever reference they use that they might have like copied from, just sort of hanging out here in the corner. And so what you end up getting is like, so for instance, if I were to like say, like take this, what's like here, like a little square down here, right? And then I go over here to File, Export, JPEG, and save that, right? I'm gonna open this up, and it's gonna have this big space here with this little guy down here. So there's all kinds of things that, like, you know, can be sort of hanging out there that might be invisible to you, especially if you have some compound shapes that you have left over here. So you gotta be real careful about what it is that you're looking, and obviously make sure that you look at it before you submit it. So I'm gonna delete that. And then when I export it, it should look like this, right? And so you'll just have, you know, some space around here. This is a JPEG, so a little bit of space on the sides, looks like. But yeah, all right, so that's that. All right, oh, and obviously in this case, let's go to color.adobe.com and let's find ourselves a nice color palette. And let's make sure everything kind of reflects around that. So you've got two things you want to turn into. You want to turn in the photo that you're going to use as your reference, and you also want to turn in the picture of the this little this logo that you've created here, right? All right, very cool. Can't wait to see you guys produce. See you in class.